On the Edge. Welcome to On the Edge, a podcast about table tennis and, that little white ball that goes so fast. I'm Marie Migaud, a professional table tennis player, and I want to put the spotlight on the personalities involved in the sport and share the stories. Whether they are players, trainers, coaches, therapists, or even more, I'm letting their voices guide us through their careers, their difficulties, and their differences. Yes, I deeply believe that each of us has something unique to give. So get ready to open your ears wide and bon voyage!
Kids are very curious, but then the school is killing curiosity because school is not teaching you new questions, school is teaching you old answers. You can't issue with depression is that you cannot figure out which thoughts are real thoughts and which thoughts are just some artificial thoughts, right? The happiest people are those who can make happy other people through something they love.
Today, I welcome someone who worked with Bill Gates for 10 years. He knows a lot about being a leader because he was Chairman Europe of Microsoft. He is a global strategist, coach of executive Olympic Games medalists, and author of the best-selling business book, The Positive Leader. Jan Muhlfeit is my guest. We talk about the importance of mental rest, his way out of depression, what he's learned about the human brain, and the importance of being aligned with who you are. A really interesting talk with lots of information that can serve your life. And if you want to help the podcast because you like it, don't hesitate to click on 5 stars, to share it around you, and support me on Tipeee.
Hi Maria, how are you?
Good, you?
Very good, very good.
Thank you to be part of On the Edge, table tennis. It's a pleasure to have you here.
I like it and I follow the podcast. I really enjoy it,
Thank you. So first, can you present yourself, who you are for the people who don't know you?
Yeah, I'm 62 years old now. I was a professional tennis player till I was 20 years old, and I switched to the computers. I studied, computers, and I was for 22 years in Microsoft, where I got different executive positions. Last time I was serving as a chairman for Europe between 2007 and 2014, so it was a very successful career. I was like 4 times running best performing region. On the other hand, I went through deep valley, and there was a huge, failure in my life. I was deeply depressed in 2011 and 2012. So for 6 months I was not working, and for 3 months I was at a mental hospital, and I've got even like suicidal thoughts. So I know a lot about the brain when you are absolutely on the top of the global economy, or if you are in the bottom in your life, and that's what it takes. So I really learn what I do now. I learn through my own experience, right? And it has nothing to do with Microsoft, which is the company I love, but it has to do with the fact that I was doing a lot of physical rest during my career, but I was not doing enough mental rest. I was still, my brain was running all the time, and when I was 50 years old, I basically collapsed.
When did you realize, something was wrong?
Yeah, it's interesting because people think that if you have depression or burnout, that it has something to do at the beginning with your brain. It's true, but the pain, your mental pain, is somatizing in your body. So I started to have a problem with my stomach, with my back, and all of that.
Digestion problems.
Yeah, digestion problems. Because if you are stressed a lot of time, your diaphragm is not moving properly. And diaphragm is necessary for good digestion, but diaphragm is also fixing your muscles, your back muscles. That's exactly what happened to me. I've got some big issues with digestion, and then I collapsed. Right? It took really 6 months, 3 months in the mental hospital. I was on antidepressants for another 5 years, and I'm fully recovered, and everything is absolutely fine. But I learned so much about your brain. That I'm grateful for that experience. It was a very tough time in my life, but I'm grateful it happened, right?
What you can say to the people who are in this case, you know, they are starting, they are feeling bad. And
that's a great question. 2 recommendations. Number 1, don't underestimate it. If you don't feel good for many days, you are not able, to sleep properly, or you have some negative thoughts for a longer time, go and visit some specialist like psychologist or psychiatrist. That's what I didn't do, even though the best psychiatrist in my country is my very good friend, Cyril Heschel, right? That's one thing. The other thing is, on the prevention side, make sure you have enough mental rest. I think whether you are like top athlete or top manager, you should really train your brain to meditate or do, mindfulness techniques, breathing techniques, and so on, So make sure that your brain is having enough rest, because the way your brain works, even though you do what you like, and that was majority of the time when I was in Microsoft, after what we call, optimal performance, which sometimes in psychology is called flow, or in sport is called zone, when you do something which is very tough for you, but you are using your best skills, your best talents. After that activity, a lot of endorphin and dopamine is released, and other chemicals need to basically clean your brain. And if you don't have enough mental rest, you can go for some time, but then it's like the whole system is collapsing down, and you don't have any more those, happiness hormones, and then your amygdala, emotional part of the brain, is ruling your brain. And you can't issue with depression is that you cannot figure out which thoughts are real thoughts and which thoughts are just some artificial thoughts, right? Because that's why you need logical part of the brain, which is like neocortex, but during the depression, neocortex is more or less off.
Yeah. What your day looks like when you were in this period? When you were in this period, like in the
mental hospital?
No, in Microsoft.
In Microsoft, okay. Yes. I was like getting up 5:30, 6 o'clock, running for 1 hour. Then I got already breakfast with somebody, some business breakfast. And then
so already from breakfast you had like job combined?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. Before breakfast, I was even checking emails on my phone and so on, okay?
Yeah.
And then it was like one meeting or one activity after the other. I went usually till 5 or 6 o'clock, then I was swimming. They were always... my admin assistant, who wherever, sometimes I've got 2 or 3, wherever they were sitting, they always knew we should put Jan close in the hotel, close to the river, so he can, run in the morning and with the swimming pool. That was it, I was like, my requirements. Otherwise, whether it was like, sometimes it was 6 stars hotel, sometimes 3 stars, it didn't matter for me. And then I was like swimming for 1 hour, and then I was, working again. So I was really working like 12 to 15 hours, right? Which for the body was okay, because, the body was fine. But I was, even when I was like getting up during the night, I was like thinking what I need to do. And there's a great book, I don't know the author, I don't remember, but it's a Dutch professor. And the book name is The Body Keeps the Score. Mm-hmm. And this is it. Your body is really keeping the score. And if you don't have enough mental rest, unfortunately, that pain is somatized in your body. At some point, it will reveal. Yeah. Yeah.
And in the hospital, how your day look like?
Oh, in the hospital, that's interesting. Because your brain. I was thinking a lot when I was there. I was really like, hey, I want to somehow, to stay there, because I didn't want to go outside. That's another thing. If you are depressed, I'm extrovert, right? And you are like dropping to the introvert. Yeah. So I didn't want to see any people. Even my family, it was really bad. And in the hospital, what they tried to do, unfortunately, my depression was so deep, it didn't work that much, because only like 4th antidepressant started to work. They try to put the rhythm, they try to restart your brain more or less. Okay. So you are getting up in the morning, you need to clean your room. It's like, army. Yeah. You need to clean the room. Then there is a warm-up, like the physical warm-up, there is a breakfast, and then there's like, it was like 90 minutes, blocks, and you are getting some, teachings from the people, but I didn't care about it. I was like sitting there and just absolutely like, it didn't matter to me, right? Yeah. It really didn't work, for me, because that depression was so huge. It didn't work with me. With some people, it worked, I must say. So they really try to restart your brain so that you have again some routines. You know what I mean, right?
You have it now, so you are doing it like for the athletes also. That they have some routine in the life.
Exactly. You know, right? And then, for example, if you are taking like antidepressants and other pills, you need to get it in front of the nurse, you know, right? Because some people would, you know, throw it away, would not use it. Okay. It's really like, I must say that it, for the good reason, don't take me wrong, but it's almost like an army, you know.
Yeah.
For the good reason, because you are not in your normal, you know, mental state. That's the problem, you know, right? And then there are some psychological tests, and you know, they were doing like EEG with my brain and whatever. But unfortunately, as I said, and I feel like at that time I felt guilty, because if I would go immediately to my doctor, probably it would not be necessary for me to go to the hospital. But I was like for 3 months at home. I was laying in the bed, watching just the ceiling, doing nothing. I lost like 30 kilos, you know, because I was not eating. And then finally I agreed, and we went to the hospital.
And you were very active before, like you were
I was very active.
So
my body, I was like 50 years old. My body was like the body of the, you know, top athlete, absolutely.
Yes.
And interesting enough, there is this, you know, muscle memory. You know, once I recovered, 3-4 months after that, I was again, you know, back where I was before.
Okay.
You know,
so you came back.
Oh, absolutely.
So when you went out of the hospital, like
well,
you were
after
healed
3
already?
months, I was released because the doctor said, look, first of all, you can be in one hospital only like for 75 days. I was there for 86 days already, right? Yeah. So they would need to move me somewhere else, okay? And he said, I think you are okay enough to go home, basically, right? At that time, I was like, okay, I go home, fine, whatever, you know. But then, step by step, it was getting a little bit better. And then one evening, I finally, after 6 months, I opened my notebook, and I said, fuck, 7,000 unanswered emails. You know,
wow.
Right? And I started to answer my emails, like 400 every day, okay? And those emails were emails from my people wishing me, you know, and I was like almost like crying. Sometimes I was even, you know, crying. And that impulse was like impulse for a huge recovery. So after 14 days, I started to run, biking and whatever. And after another, you know, month, the doctor said, hey, you can, you know, go back. And for me, it was like, you know, getting me, if somebody would do like cut and paste in computers, you know, in the software cut and paste, cut me from my life, paste me in some, you know, network or whatever, you know, in, somewhere else in some other, you know,
space,
other space, absolutely. And then in metrics, somebody is like, you know, running you, and then, you know, moving me back. But after a couple of months, I realized, hey, this is a great experience, how I can learn much more about me, how the brain works and so on. And I started to put everything, you know, together. And that's when I said, hey, I can, you know, coach, not only like business-wise or leadership-wise, which was quite obvious after all those years in Microsoft, but I can coach people mentally, what to do, you know, mentally, right? And I stayed there another 3 years, you know.
In Microsoft?
After the depression, I stayed another 3 years in Microsoft, and then I decided, because my father passed away, and I realized, hey, the life is finite, and I wanted to do something different. And it's like being, you know, on that level for 22 years. It's like playing Premier League or NHL, you know, for 22 years. It's really like
huge.
It is a huge, absolutely.
I have one question. Microsoft, they also help you, like your friends and your colleagues, they wrote you email and everything. Yeah. And did they put like in place some space for mental issues, you know, for mental health?
Oh, absolutely. I must say that Jean-Philippe Courtois, who is now Microsoft president.
Jean-Philippe Courtois?
No, Jean-Philippe Courtois, he's a French guy, you know, very fine, you know, human being and a great manager and leader. He wrote me by hand after the meeting with Steve Ballmer and Bill Gates in the morning, like 1 o'clock in the morning. He wrote me, I remember, January 21st, that's the date, okay? 2012. He wrote me by hand, very nice, you know, letter on the paper, not email.
That's not
paper.
anymore existing almost. Almost not.
That I'm a great leader and all Microsoft is behind me. Really very nice inspiration letter, right? And it meant me a lot, right? And a couple of years ago, he was 35 years with Microsoft, okay? And his admin, Tineke, she sent me an email. She said, well, look, we were so close to Jean-Philippe. Can you write something nice to Jean-Philippe? I said, I'm not going to write anything, but I will publish that letter because it says a lot about that human being, and I did it, right? So this is it. This is what I did. Now, to your question, Microsoft, for example, what is Microsoft doing? Microsoft is paying I think 30 hours of the therapy if you want, for everybody.
Okay.
A lot in terms of education and so on, And interestingly enough, this week talk about 2011, 2012. Jean-Philippe was my boss for 15 years. Okay?
Yes.
He was always telling me, said, Jan, you are working so hard, you need to take a rest. And I was in my brain, it was almost like, hey, I'm not the wimpy guy, I don't need any rest. I'm tough guy, whatever, Because he worked very hard, but I think he was doing much better job managing his mental energy, let's put it this way.
Yes. And actually business and sport, they are related.
Oh, absolutely.
Everything. But
absolutely.
we care, I don't know, yes, the business, but
right.
We care a lot now in sports, but I don't know if we care enough in business today.
I think it's starting because there are a lot of issues, right? Because imagine, Maria, your brain today needs to process in 1 week as much information as the brains of our predecessors in the whole life. So there's a huge pressure. Then if you play like your sport, table tennis. So I coach your, girlfriend Hanka Matelova, right? And I, coach many players and other athletes. But you guys are under huge pressure, and the problem is concentration, because each and every ball requires some decision, and every decision is lowering your mental energy. Okay, and if the mental energy today, people can concentrate 12 minutes in the row, right? Because in the past there were not that many, impulses. You know what I mean, right?
Yeah.
Right? There are not that many things. Today, you are overwhelmed. This is over-informed but under-focused generation. So the focus, if I would say what is the key primary, target for me, it's how to manage focus, with the athletes, right? So there are a lot of commonalities, and I think because of the social networks and that pressure, there is more stress, and it's much harder to focus for the athletes as opposed to 30 years ago. Look, when I finished my professional tennis career when I was 20 years old, right? Yeah. It was 82, 81, anyway, right? At that time, there were a couple of, small computers, but there was no internet, nothing, no social networks, nothing.
Then Bill Gates arrived, no, I joke.
Yeah, well, Bill Gates already, he knew, PC at every desk, Yes. And I was so glad that I could, work with Bill for 10 years. It was a huge learning for me.
What did you learn, for example, from him?
What I learned, a couple of things, right? Because Bill was always saying every no is the beginning of yes. So I was having quite high resilience, but I learned much more with him, like every no. Because we very early in Microsoft, when it was version 1, Windows 1 or whatever, Office, 1.0, it was not a huge success, but we learn as we go. That was one thing. The other thing was, he was always saying success is a very lousy teacher. Okay. We're learning mostly from our own mistakes. If the kids are learning to walk, if they are, successful with all steps, they are not learning. They are learning by falling down, and then they learn, right? Because your brain is generating like the peak of neuroadrenaline, saying, "Hey, this is important. You need to concentrate on that," right? So, and for example, what we were doing in Microsoft, after every bigger deal, we used to have what we call post-mortem feedback. It doesn't mean that somebody was dying, right? But it meant like, hey, something finished, so we need to talk how it was going. And we were talking about 3 aspects of that business. What was going well, what we should continue, what we should stop or do it differently, or what we should start. Those were like 3 buckets, huge buckets of the issues. So that was another, thing I learned. And the last point, I learned a lot about visions, okay? Because I realized, give you one example. 2004, I was with Bill in a room like that. There was a whole, Polish government in Warsaw, okay? And Bill was talking about technology like for 45 minutes. There was a Q&A, and then the chairman of the government, the chair of the government, Mr. Bielka, came to me and he said, Jan, I will buy for each and every technology kind of the sample we really would like to try. And I said, Mr. Chairman, those products are not existing. It was just the vision. And then I realized, what is the vision? Vision is the picture of the world which does not exist yet, but you believe in that picture. And if you will make other people to believe in what you believe, then you can change the world, right? Whether you are Gandhi, Steve Jobs, Bill Gates, whatever, Nelson Mandela, right? So this is another, piece what I learned from Bill Gates, right? So now maybe people would be interested whether there's something Bill Gates learned from me, and actually there are a couple of things.
You said in an interview that actually you were speaking to Bill Gates like you were equal.
Absolutely.
Because every humans are equal.
That's one thing, because Bill Gates was always saying all life matters when he was doing some programs in Africa, whatever, right? And I learned a lot about products and about the visions and stuff like that from him. But on the other hand, I think he learned from me how to run businesses in new markets, because I was like emerging markets expert, because I opened so many subsidiaries around the world for Microsoft, right? So that was something when I started to speak about new businesses, he started to listen. I remember we had a discussion where we were opening, subsidiary in Kazakhstan. He said, well, Kazakhstan, how much you think we can do in Kazakhstan? I said, Bill, there's a huge potential, because there's gas and oil, whatever. The country is rich, 15 million people. So I said, I think 4 or 5 years from now, 100 million. It was like maybe 15 to 20. And we did 100 million in like 4 years, right? So, so that was thing, he could learn from me, and I mean, it was amazing how he was able to see new things, what will happen in the world, new context and new things what the other people really didn't see. Pandemia, for example. Pandemia, right? He talked about pandemia and the worldwide issue 2015. Nobody gave a shit to that video, right? There were a couple of, thousand people watching it. Yeah. But since COVID started, there was like 100 million people probably watching that video.
Yeah. You said that you speak same to Bill Gates, but you are, I think, acting same with your athletes.
Yeah.
Today you are coming to Czech Championship to watch Hannah. We are having lunch together.
Absolutely.
You are treating everyone the same.
Yeah, I do. Because look, I'm the guy. I was like playing professional tennis, but I was, living at the village, right? So they were almost firing me from the university. I was not that great student. My first job, I was a, receptionist, right, at the hostel, right? So I was typical underdog. Nobody would say, hey, that guy will be president for Microsoft in Europe, whatever, right? Yeah. But I was working, hard, and I'm never giving up. That's the same with my athletes. Now, I've got like two people. Nikola Bartunkova, she was in the final of Wimbledon. Now, Jan Kumstad, it was a final of Australian Open. So I think for the third time, they will do it. Somebody will, win the Grand Slam, right? And that's my approach, always.
How you are working with them, with the athletes? I know you have some method, breathing technique, also these 3 points that you say in the end of the day. So maybe you can speak a little bit about it.
Absolutely. So usually, if athletes are coming to me, they are bringing some issues, okay? For example, I was for 4 years coaching Patrick Schick, who was 2 years ago one of the best players in Bundesliga, and he was, injured when not working anymore. But for 4 years, and when he was really playing top, I was his mental coach. And he came to me because he was playing at that time for AS Rome. They played against Juventus, and he was allowed against Buffon, who was the goalkeeper in Juventus. And he could do like one step and shoot in the empty corner. But unfortunately, he basically kicked the ball and he hit it, Buffon, right? And it was sitting in his brain for like many months, and he could not, play there well. So what we did, it's called framing. You need to frame the issue. What was wrong. You frame it, and then through the visualization, you reframe it. How you should, do it next time, right? And he did it, a couple of times, that exercise. Then we were playing, Czech Republic was playing against Bulgaria, and we won in the qualification for European Championship, and we won 2-1, okay?
Yeah.
And he scored 2 goals, and the second goal was exactly what he was supposed to do with the Buffon, right?
Yeah. So that's also with Brigade.
Yeah, absolutely.
Had the similar
absolutely. So I try to help them to solve the real issues they have. Sometimes, like Veronika Mala, she's our captain for the handball team. She's playing in Bundesliga. She told me, I think I'm afraid of the 2 or 3 goalkeepers there. So I said, okay, you need to walk as a lion. If you go around them, you walk as a lion, because your body, your body basically can kill all, stress or fear or whatever, because first language was a body language. So if you stay straight for some time, your testosterone goes up 20%, 25%, cortisol is down by 25%, and for 1/3, it's better your ability to go to the action, okay? So this is it. So the one thing we are solving the real issues they have. Then I do diagnostic, and I'm using, you did it also with me, Gallup Strengths Finder, absolutely, Gallup Strengths Finder, because that is giving, it's about self-awareness, you understand who you are, but it's also, for me, I learn how they see the world, okay? Because, for example, Patrick Schick, he got first talent deliberative, which means think twice before you cut, right?
Okay.
Which means for the football player, he is not, too early on the ball or too late. He is there just on the time. It's about the timing. And once we realized that, he was really able to score many goals in Bundesliga, right?
You said that Djokovic had also this empathy, like he was feeling what's
absolutely
inside of the court.
Absolutely. Because if you can feel in tennis, if you are strong enough, that's fine. But if you feel that the other guy is not in a great field, and you take it as your advantage, you play better.
That's the mental game.
It is a mental game, absolutely. Because Djokovic, I think 90% of the time, he's able to get in the brains of the opponent before the game starts. The same with Nadal. I was talking both Djokovic and Nadal, and I've seen, what Nadal was doing when he was like warming up, whatever, right? So this is it. So that's the second part. And the third part, I've got like 400 different techniques how to improve your mental toughness. So I'm giving people like Chinese menu, and they are picking up, they are trying new approaches and so on. This is in the nutshell what we do. And I do a lot of things also with the group, because I'm the mental coach for the Czech Olympic top team. So I do seminars for like 1 to many, like say to 20, people. I work with the teams. I work especially with 6 or 7 people who are captains of the national teams, or like top teams like Thea Oblak, for example, here in the USK. That's one of the best basketball teams in Europe. Yeah.
It's also important to work with the kids. Yeah, because they are just coming to the world, so they have also these new eyes, I think. So you have also one program for the kids.
We have absolutely. There's a program.
I have the book next to me.
Yeah, that's a new one, because we have like 4 different books. The Positive Leader, that's in 12 different languages. Was the first one. And we have Unlocking Children's Potential, which was now published worldwide by Willy. Those 2 are also in English. We have a family as a team, and the last one, which I did with the former captain of the Czech basketball team, Pavel Pumperla, how you create the winning teams, right? So with the kids, I have programs for the adults, but I have also quite a unique program for the kids, through which we train like 10,000 kids so far. Kids and parents are coming together, in the morning, absolutely. 15 to 20 kids plus 1 or 2 parents.
Why parents and kids together?
Because I want to coach also the parents. I tell you what, kids are very much influenced by, the upbringing, right? Who brought you up, and the education, whatever. And the parents can screw a lot of things during that period. It's not my view. Bruce Lipton, who is one of the best scientist in epigenetics. He's saying that 70% of the programs kids are having are dangerous,
Yeah.
right? So it are dangerous. Yeah. And those can be programs like, hey, you will never be that good like Anne or whatever, right? Or you should sit, in the corner, and somebody will find you, whatever, all that, bullshit bingo. So why we are doing it with the parents? Because parents are watching the kids and they are telling us, hey, we never saw that our kids are, because the seminars are all positive psychology, which means find best in the people and build on that, okay? So in the morning, we try to explain to the kids what is the talent, which is like the genes, and because everybody got the genes, everybody got a talent, we have like small, soft toy monkey, it's amygdala, your monkey is jumping from one issue to the other, explaining that if it's not going very well in the school, it's monkey, right? Yeah. And a lot of teasing and stuff like that, really in a very playful form. And then they test, and in the afternoon, for each and every child, I'm coaching them how use those, talents and what can be like, those are the talents, those are the genes. And I try to ask them what can be that, job or different jobs they may use those talents for, and they'll be, happy. Yeah. And I'm asking like first question, when you were really small, what did you play with? What kind of the toys, It's sometimes they are saying Lego of if they are empathic, I'm saying, hey, did you play with, some animals? Did you give them the names, or stuff like that, right? Yes. So that's the second point. So they really like it. And then they are creating, quote, we are dividing in the groups of 4 or 5 kids, and they are creating their own companies based on their talents, and they are presenting to the parents, how they will run the company based on those talents. It's amazing.
Kids are creative, right?
Oh, absolutely. Kids are very curious, and because they are asking so many questions, that's why they are learning so fast. But then the school is killing curiosity, because school is not teaching you new questions. School is teaching you old answers. This is it. School is not good. School is like 250 years old, right? The school. School is good, but we should, upgrade the schooling system. That's for sure. Because if you take artificial intelligence, it's about forming the issue and asking the right question. And we are not teaching this. Yes. We are just teaching the answers. Yes. That's the huge problem. And we don't do any marketing, because a lot of, parents are like spreading the word. It's all word of mouth, right? So it's amazing. And I like it. That, for me, I tell you what is the bonus, Maria, for me. For me, the bonus is because all athletes I'm getting are like, 5 or 10 years older than those kids, maybe 15 years older. Yes. But they were kids at some point. So where they are today, it's karma basically, right? So I'm learning, a lot of things for athletes. So what I started to do right now, for example, what I did with Alex Chupin, he qualified just recently in foil, in fencing for Olympic Games. And that's really tough because there were only 2 Europeans, right? And he was not doing, very well before the Christmas. And what we try to move his mind into the childhood. Because when you were a child, you were like fear agnostic. You were not afraid of the mistakes or not qualifying for Olympic Games, whatever.
Didn't matter.
You were just, learning. Yeah. And now the question is, how can you do that? Mindfulness is the answer. Because think about it. If the kids are 70% of the time, small kids are in the flow, they are in the zone. If you talk to them, they don't hear, they don't see, right? Yes. They are always in the present moment. That's why they are learning so fast. So mindfulness is basically being in the present moment, be aware of what you are doing, but not judging what you are doing. Yes. And it's a huge thing, right? It's very tough to do it.
Through meditation or through what?
Through meditation, you can look. I have here my water, okay?
Yeah.
And I can drink that water absolutely automatically, or I can have a sip, and I can figure out how that water goes through my digesting system, right? I'm not judging it. The problem is, because kids are really very creative, learning fast, but when is the time when kids will start to lose their curiosity, their, openness and their creativity? When the parents will start to compare them to the other kids. And because amygdala is 10 times faster than your logical part of the brain, the parents are not going like, hey, you are great in those 5, subjects. It's great, and you can still do a little bit, more in this one. No, they go differently, okay? They go and say, oh, Joe is better in the math and is better in the Czech or French or whatever. You know what I mean, right?
Yeah, totally.
And unfortunately, those kids, it's dropping down. How comes that 60% of the students at Harvard during freshman year 1, 60% of them, they have so-called imposter syndrome. They think they don't belong there, right? Because to get to the Harvard is almost impossible for a normal human being. And if they are getting there, 60% think I don't belong there. Okay? Yeah. Because the issue is when they start to compare you and compare, not your strengths, but your weaknesses, that's the problem. Gallup did some research. When the kids are getting the best rating, 1 here or I in US, families spend 7% with the best rated subject, 70% with the worst rated subject. It's 10 times, more. Yeah. So I think that's the real issue. And now you may say, do you have a solution?
Do you have a solution?
I think I have some solution. If you think about it, to be parent, it's a very tough job and very important for society. One of the most important jobs in the society. Okay, but you are not trained for it at all. Okay. When I was in the school, in the basic school, there was so-called parenting training, and you know what? For the boys, for the girls, they were having some dolls and like trying how to make the napkin, with those dolls, right? That was the whole time, and we were like working with some tools in the garden. That was it. That was the parenting education, right? Yeah. And it's more or less the same now. Right? So the thing is that it's a very important to be, parent. We are not educated for it at all. And I think for me, this is wrong. Now, I will go one step ahead. The biggest issue of our society is that we have technology of the 20th century, and I am a technologist, and we have a brain of medieval at the best, I can tell you, okay? So there's a huge gap. And now, you go to the school and you learn a lot of interesting things about, society, nature, interesting people, but you are not learning about who you are, about yourself. So self-awareness is on a very low, level. Yeah. And that's the real issue, okay? And if the parents are not self-aware, they will not, educate and bring up, the kids in that, way to really understand who they are. Yeah. And then, that's another Gallup number, only 20% of the people around the world are doing, what they like. They are self-actualized, okay? So I'm always saying that the whole world runs only on 1/5 of the capacity. So 80% of the people are doing jobs they don't like. 40% are even what they call actively disengaged, right? Which means that they hate what they do, their job, so much that they are getting up in the morning, they are pissed off, and they go to the work to piss off other people, right? And this is like infection, right?
Yes. And you don't think it's changing a bit now?
It is changing. I think it is a changing, especially with young generation.
Yes.
I think it's changing, but I would do definitely, because based on my own experience, 7 years old kids, they can understand the basics of the brain, how your mind works, how your thoughts is working, how your emotions are, working, right? Because some people, how comes, if I'm pissed off probably 3-4 minutes, right? And this is it, yes. Okay? And you can be pissed off by 3-4 days, right? If you don't know. Emotions are created, and emotions are not about, even the stress. Stress is not about the situation. Stress is about your view of the situation, okay? Because your brain is giving some stickers to the different situations, and that's how the chemicals, how the hormones are created. U.S. Navy did, recently some study, the same situation, the same level of the training for the soldiers. The first group got a message, this is very dangerous. The second group was getting message, this is challenging, the same situation. The first group performance went down because a lot of cortisol was released, because they were very fearful. challenge means, different things. So a lot of testosterone was created. So that was going up. And that's what I'm telling also my athletes, don't use like very negative, language. I mean, even though the things are not getting well, you can still use, a neutral language, or you can use, hey, I learned that, and you can, move on.
I interviewed Darko Jorgic like a week ago, and he said that after a defeat, he's going out of the match. He's very angry, pissed for like, I don't know, 3-4 hours.
Right.
But on the next day, he's on the practice.
Absolutely.
And I don't know so many people who can do that in my environment, And he was like, really, I don't want to see anyone. But when I'm going back into the hall, I feel like even more motivated, and I'm fresh even to start, And it was like, it sounds easy when I listen to him.
It sounds easy, but it's not that easy, right?
Yes. So
It is. I would say it is simple, but not that easy. I tell you why. Because we have something which we call negative bias. 10 times our amygdala, the emotional part of the brain, and I can quote here Professor Kahneman, who won Nobel. He's a laureate of the Nobel Prize for Behavioral Economy. He's saying that 70% of the decisions you are doing in your life are based on your emotions.
Yeah.
And that's the same in table and whatever activity you do, right? So we have 10 times, faster the negative part of the brain. Let's put it this way, right? So, so it is clear that your brain is stuck with the past, a negative past, because the thing is, you should understand that our brain is not structured to win unless it's trained. Our brain is structured to survive, because amygdala is 10 times faster than your professor. That's the neocortex, right? Neocortex is even between 12 to 15,000 years, right? Now, what is clear that your brain remembers the last, negative experience the most. Okay, some examples. You play, you are in the flow, it's going, very well. It's like 10-4 or whatever in the decisive set, and suddenly it's like 10-7 or 10-8 even, and you still are like 2 points ahead. You have still 2 match balls, but you're I'm like, I lost. Panic, exactly, right? Now you may say, what should I do? It's called mental jingle. You need to give impulse to your brain, something, finish and something new will start, because otherwise your brain would still stay, in the past. Buddha was saying people are suffering because they are attached to the past. They are not able to move back to the present.
You can train that every day.
Absolutely.
Not only at 10-4, but like every day you can
every day,
that.
All the time, whatever is happening in your life, whether it's success or failure, you can still learn and move back to the present moment.
Yes.
This is it. So, for example, I tell you what, like in tennis or table tennis, you can do. If it's going like that, your dominant hand is right hand. You can put your rocket to the left hand for say 5-7 seconds, and it's an impulse for your brain. Something is now finished, something you will start, and it's called mental jingle. This is what you need to do. They recently there is I'm coaching one of the best ice hockey players in this country, and they are playing playoff, and they lost one game when they were shooting the penalties, okay? And he asked me, Jan, what should I do before I, go to the goalkeeper? And I said, it's easy. You need to start like 5, 4, 3, 1, go. I'll explain you what it does. Your brain will concentrate on on the counting, right? So you will not think, hey, I need to score or whatever. And that 5, 4, 3, 1, go. It's like, hey, you go and now you start. So it's giving you even the energy, right? Ronaldo in soccer, he goes he's putting the ball there and he's going 1 step, 2nd step. You know what I mean, right?
Yeah.
And that's
exactly
exactly for that. It's called mental jingle.
Yeah.
And that's if people will do that, because both Nadal and Djokovic, they told me that they play well because they are able to push the last ball in their brain 24. It happened 20 years ago almost.
Yes.
You know what I mean, right?
Yeah, I
right.
understand.
So
yeah. You are a very positive person. Like if I see you, you have this energy, positive energy, and not only me saying that. So how do you explain that energy, and you also give it to the players? I think when you are live with them, or if you are online or whatever, like is it something that you use also as a tool?
I do, and it was the same in Microsoft. And funny thing is, Maria, that for a long time I was not aware that I have this energy.
Okay.
I was not aware. There was a gentleman, he was my, lawyer in Microsoft, Kim Gagnier. He's a great guy. And he did some interview, I don't know in which country. Anyway, so I was, reading the interview, and he said, when Jan is coming to the room is like full of the energy, because we have those, mirror neurons, so you are mirroring to the room, what do you have? So that's what I, realized. And then I said, well, you know what, I can use it for me, but I can use it also for the teams and for the other people and so on. But because I'm very curious, I was like thinking, where is it coming from? And my mom, unfortunately, she died last year, right? But when she was like 3-4 years ago, she told me, you know what, for you, since the beginning, it was very tough, because you almost, during the delivery, you almost died, because you wanted to go so much, ahead, like outside, that I was like hang on the, how you call it?
This cord, I don't know.
Yeah. The cord, absolutely. Yeah. The string between mom and the baby. Yeah. So I think it's probably coming there, because the delivery of the baby is very important for the mom and for the baby, for sure, right? Because that was interesting, because when she told me, I was thinking like, well, when I was this depression, especially at the beginning of the depression, I've got like, sometimes the dream that somebody wanted to kill me, like, by hands, right?
Came back, like.
Yeah, exactly.
It
came back.
Yeah.
It absolutely. So it was a trauma, right? And it's gone. I mean, but this is it. And then I really try. They measured me recently, and they said, yeah, you can have very high energy, and in 1 minute your brain can be on alpha, between 8 to 12 hertz, so you can meditate. That's what I learned.
So you know also how to like switch
absolutely.
off and like be
absolutely.
with yourself.
Because after this podcast, I have a big, presentation for the e-sport coaches. I go there, and before I'll go to the room, I'll meditate in my car like for 10 minutes, and I'm absolutely like with the energy back again. So you need to, you see, Maria, the issue, I think the issue is, I'll tell you what. 30 years ago, I was not giving a shit to the history or whatever. I was like, history is the history. We are doing much better job than in the history, whatever. But our predecessors were not, stupid. They were very smart. And more and more, I learned from the history. And now I think I'm spending probably 60% of the time on history and 40% on like contemporary or the future, right? Anyway. In the history, because there were not that many things happening around you, we were pretty much aware of our, body. Today, if you have some small pain, immediately, ibuprofen or whatever are the pills, So we lost, majority of the people living their life in the mind, which they don't understand at all. And this is it.
Totally agree.
This is it, okay? The National Institute for the Mental Health here in Czech, they run survey, and the 15 years old kids, 40% of the 15 years old kids are depressed or, mildly depressed. Okay. 35% are having anxieties.
That's huge.
Huge number.
I had anxiety. I have for a year. But now I feel like so new, I feel like I'm the Marie like when I was 8 years old, 7 years old.
Good.
And that's
good.
nice.
That's good, yeah. My wife is saying like she... Recently, we went to the stem cell doctor. He's a friend of ours. Okay. And he always measures us. He's like putting us on the weight, whether we have a good weight. It's some special device, and the device can tell you the biology age, okay? And I'm 62, and Thomas said, 43 years old, so it's 19 years. And my wife said, okay, maybe the body is 43, right? The brain is probably like 20, and he behaves like 13 years old.
He behaved like 16 years old.
Yeah.
Whoa, your wife said that. That's good. Great. Last question. I want to ask you, because you've met so many famous people, famous people.
Oh, yeah.
I asked you if you had a photo of Pink because you met Pink, and I'm a big fan of Pink.
Yeah.
And you sent me a photo with Charles.
Charles, with Prince Charles, absolutely. Now King Charles, I don't have a photo with Pink, but Pink was, singing on one of our. We used to have. I tell you what was in Microsoft. We used to have it. It was called Microsoft Global Summit, like 25,000 people from sales and marketing. And majority of the time, we've got Pink and some really, big bands, really good band, all right? 1 year, when there was this crisis, 2008, we needed to cut the budget because it was impossible to achieve it, whatever. We have cover band for 50,000, but it was still good. Pink was, definitely, I think once or twice, but I don't have a picture with Pink. But I like her, and she was a very nice. She was playing at least 5 or 6 songs in addition. She really likes it because it was 10,000 Microsoft people clapping the hands, whatever.
But now she's a huge star. So
she's a huge. At that time, she, she was. We used to have a portal called Microsoft Networks, and she was a face for that. But this must be 2009, 2010 probably. She's much bigger star. I absolutely agree.
So. Is the famous people happy most of the time, or as they?
It depends. It depends. And what I learned about happiness, it's quite interesting because I worked with 10 years with Bill Gates, who was at that time richest person in the world. He was among top 5 people would recognize immediately at the street. It was like Bill Clinton, Prince Charles, Bill Gates, and a couple of Madonna at the time, a couple of others. But now the question about happiness, and I realized that Bill started to be really happy when he started to distribute his money in a meaningful way for him. And what I did, I constructed the definition of the happiness, that the happiest people are those who can make happy other people through something they love. You know what I mean, right? So there's this social aspect. That's why I think the meaning in your life, I have a tool, in fact, in all my books is this tool for how to find meaning in your life. The first circle is your talents, where you were born. The second is your passions. And where talents are overlapping with your passions, that's when you are in the flow. And the third circle are your personal values, because personal values reflects what you admire in the other people. If you take 5 people you admire, you have your personal, value, and what you admire in them, you have your personal values. And when those 3 are overlapping, it's like what you love, that's your flow, and your personal values are reflecting the other people. So to answer your question, some people are happy, some people are not, and it has nothing to do with the money. And I can tell you,
and with the fame either.
With the fame either. I think the success without fulfillment, that you feel fulfilled, that it's the meaning of your life, it's failure basically, because you will try to get more fame or more money. If it's coming like a side effect and you love what you do, it's absolutely fine. Because you have people like Ronaldo, and I think he loves what he is doing, and that's the reason, right? You have many tennis players like Djokovic. Djokovic doesn't need to play anymore, but he loves, and he's a very professional guy. Everything, eating, mental coach, whatever, he is just professional. And you can talk about some artists. So this is it. And if you watch some movies on Netflix, those some famous people are not that happy, and it has nothing to do really with the money or with the fame. Happiness is something different.
Thank you very much.
Thanks for having me. Thank you. And good luck.
Yeah, thanks.